Is it time to make another review already? Fine. Greetings everybody, it is I, 480 Volts, and we are ready to start the second game of the classic Mega Man series. Well, let's just jump right into the history, shall we? If you haven't seen my review of the first Mega Man game, and shame on you for not watching every single video on my entire channel, basically I think that Mega Man 1 is a good first entry to the series. It is far from perfect, but it shows a lot of promise and potential. Sadly though, Mega Man did not sell very well after its release. In fact, it sold so poorly that when director Akira Kitamura proposed a sequel, he was turned down by then producer Tokuro Fujiwara. Kitamura then went to Capcom Vice President to get permission to make the game. I guess if you want something done, you have to go to the big guns. Capcom allowed the development team to create a sequel on the condition that they work concurrently on other projects as well. The staff spent their own time on the project to improve upon the original by adding more levels and weapons, as well as improving graphics. This is simply amazing to me. So the development team is working on other projects that, as per Capcom, take priority over a Mega Man sequel. I'm sure that these guys, at the end of a workday, just wanted to go home and eat their dinner, spend time with their families, play some Street Fighter, whatever. But instead, they spent their spare time cracking down on a sequel that upper management considered, for all practical purposes, a moot point. That says a lot about the team's dedication and faith in the potential of the first game. Boy, what a jerk that Tokuro Fujiwara, yeah? I am joking, of course. Truth be told, I actually think the world of Fujiwara. I have a special childhood appreciation for him because many years later, he would create one of my favorite video games of all time, a little game released for the Sony PlayStation called Tomba. But that is an entirely different game for an entirely different time. In all fairness, I can't blame Fujiwara for refusing a sequel to a game that didn't sell well. See, when a game is released, the players form their opinions based on their gameplay experience. Some people rate games based on things like gameplay, controls, style, graphics, story, music, etc. There are also, unfortunately, those who rate the quality of the game based on everyone else's opinion. Essentially, this game is bad because everybody says it's bad and I don't have the capacity to think for myself. But the developers just don't have that luxury. They can't look at the graphics, gameplay, story, or whatever and say that if the game is good or bad. They look for one thing: dollar signs. Or in Capcom's case, yen. When a developer makes a game, they invest their own money in the team. They trust them to make a good game. They take a risk. If the game sells well, they make a profit. Well, everything pays off. But if the game flops, then all of their time and money was wasted. Since members of the development team of the first Mega Man game, guys like Akira Kitamura and Keiji Inafune and such, worked in other Cap games that I assume sold much better, Capcom can't really blame them. So the only other thing they can blame is the franchise itself. Mega Man just wasn't popular. Whether it's the difficulty, the non-linear stage progression, or Mega Man's arm cannon, it just wasn't selling. And even if Kitamura and Inafune saw the potential in the first game, Fujiwara had to look out for the company's money and consider the strong possibility that a second Mega Man game, however improved it may be, will not attract players. And admittedly, the decision to allow the team to make the game on their own time was pretty underhanded. If the game sells, we take the credit and get lots of money, and if it doesn't sell, well, sucks to be you guys. The game was developed over a very short period of time, only 3 to 4 months, and was released on the NES in 1988. I think it is safe to say that the team's hard work really paid off. To this day, Mega Man 2 is considered to be one of the greatest games on the NES, definitely the best in the Mega Man series. Whether people love Mega Man or just sort of casually play it, almost everyone loves Mega Man 2. I have an equation for you viewers. Everybody who's ever played any Mega Man game loves Mega Man 2. Plus, 480 loves Mega Man. So that must equal 480 loves Mega Man 2, right? I'm gonna be honest here. Even though I think Mega Man 2 is a wonderful game, especially considering its development, I think there are far better Mega Man games out there. But we'll get into those in the months to come.
For now, let's take a look at this game. The story is about as simplistic as it gets. Basically, Dr. Wily is evil and you have to stop him. What, did Mega Man really think that an evil scientist hell-bent on world domination would turn in a new leaf just because he promised Mega Man he'd be good? I'll bet he crossed his heart and hoped to die, too, that little lying villain. The difference this time around is that Wily has created his own army of Robot Masters, and I guess he decided that the reason he lost to Mega Man in the first game was because his army was too small. So this time he builds 8 Robot Masters, which will become the standard number of Robot Masters for the rest of the series instead of 6. Yeah, that'll work. This game improves upon many things that the first game featured, and it shows as soon as you start the game. You will be greeted with a text prologue relating the story with an 8-bit city in the background while the first game's ending music is softly playing. The screen will then pan upward along a tall skyscraper with Mega Man standing atop the roof as the music transitions into some of the coolest intro music I have ever heard on the original Nintendo. Also, unless you're playing the Japanese release, this game has a difficulty choice, normal and difficult. The names are actually somewhat misleading, as the difficult setting is technically the original setting for the Japanese release, and normal was added to the North American version to give players an easier time. I would advise normal mode for first-timers, but difficult is by no means impossible. Basically, normal mode increases the amount of damage that Mega Man deals both with his arm cannon and with his special weapons, while decreasing the amount of damage enemies will deal. It also makes things like weapon, ammo, and health packs and extra lives and whatnot drop more commonly than not. As was the case in the first game, each Robot Master serves as a boss in their respective stages, and the player is once again free to play through the 8 stages in any order they prefer. Upon defeating a Robot Master, Mega Man will once again copy their weapon data onto his own programming, allowing you to use that weapon for the rest of the game, provided you have sufficient ammunition. And each one of those weapons is a weakness for one of the other Robot Masters, going back to the whole rock, paper, scissors deal. I don't necessarily find the special weapons as useful as everybody else does. I love the Metal Blade that you obtain from Metal Man because it can shoot in any direction, makes quick work out of most enemies, and uses up the least amount of ammo. Seriously, get this weapon as quick as you can. Some stages feature little gimmicks that are made specifically for a special weapon. For instance, Quick Man stage features these giant bars that slide across the screen. Touching them is not a good idea. While it is possible to navigate through these areas if you're fast enough, it really isn't that hard. You can use Flashman's Time Stopper, which will freeze the bars in place, giving you some breathing time. However, the Time Stopper is a one-time use weapon, and it happens to be Quickman's weakness, so if you use it before the boss and don't refill it, you'll be fighting Quickman with the arm cannon, which, to be fair, you kinda have to do anyway, as the Time Stopper only takes away half of his health. Also, in both Flashman's and Heatman stages, there are these block walls that can be destroyed with the Crash Bomber. Interestingly enough, if you destroy one of these walls, lose a life, and respawn before that wall, it will not have respawned. It will remain destroyed. Remember that. The Magnet Beam is absent from this game, however, there are certain special items that you can collect that essentially help Mega Man navigate through certain areas where he wouldn't normally be able to. These items are mandatory to beat the game with, but fortunately they are given to you automatically upon defeating Airman's, Flashman's, and Heatman stages. Like weapons, they require ammo. Another thing to note in this game, and all other Mega Man games to come, when you clear a Robot Master stage, you are taken to a special screen that tells you what kind of weapon you acquired. A new item for this game, and most Mega Man games to come, is the Energy Tank. These are not dropped by enemies, and instead are located in certain parts of the stages, meaning there's only a certain number of them in the entire game. You can hold up to 4 of these. When used, an E-Tank refills all of your health. Interestingly enough, during the development of this game, Inafune's supervisor was unsure about the usefulness of E-Tanks. I'm going to tell you this now. They are useful, and anyone who does not get them is asking for trouble. And since you can only hold up to 4 and you'll encounter plenty of them, don't hesitate to use them when you need to. Also, this game, along with many more of them, features password screens in which you can continue from a certain point in the game. Just place the red dots on the correct grid spaces. When you clear a stage, you can view the password for your current level of progression. Thanks to the internet, you can find password generators online where you can select which special weapons you wish to have acquired, thus determining which stages will have been cleared, and how many E-Tanks you want, and it will generate a password for you. What's great about passwords is that they allow you to play the game until you've had enough and need a break, and when you decide to get back into it, you can pick up right where you left off. Also, there is no point system in this game, nor any other Mega Man game that followed, but I don't think anybody really misses that, considering it was completely useless. As far as controls, Mega Man controls almost identical to the way he controlled in the first game. I say almost because I think he may be just a little less stiff. Don't quote me though. There are a few stages that feature underwater platforming, and Mega Man controls significantly different underwater than he did in the first game. In the first game, Mega Man moved around slower while underwater, which you would expect out of most platformers, but in this game, and all other Mega Man games from here on out, he jumps much higher while underwater and descends much slower. Well, admittedly, this violates basic physics, but I will forgive Capcom for this control aesthetic because, realistically speaking, it makes the underwater sections much more fun than they could have been. Just don't get too carried away. Unlike the first game, once you have cleared a Robot Master stage, you cannot re-enter it again. Once you've cleared all 8 stages, you are taken straight to the Wily stages.
Still just as annoying as it was last time.
Well, as you can see, we now have an outside view of what Wily's castle looks like. Isn't it just the most inviting looking place you've ever seen? And we can see how many stages there are. Like the first Mega Man game, weapon ammo is not refilled between Wily stages. Also, there are no passwords for each individual Wily stage. You can enter a password for defeating all 8 Robot Masters with however many E-Tanks you want, and the game will take you to the first Wily stage. But once you begin the Wily Castle, it is once again start to finish or bust. As for the Wily stages themselves, I'm gonna be honest, everything has been solid up to this point, but this is where it all falls apart. This is where it becomes painfully apparent that the developers were making this game on their own time. Wily Stage 1 and 4 of Mega Man 2 are easily my 2 least favorite stages in the entire classic series if you don't count Mega Man and Bass. I can deal with challenging hard, but this is stupid and sloppy hard. So Wily 1 begins with Mega Man traversing the outside of the fortress. Nothing too difficult at first, but then you climb this ladder to reach this point where the next ladder is out of your normal reach. If used properly, Special Item 1 can help you reach it. However, your jumps and deployment of Item 1 have to be pixel perfect, otherwise you ain't getting up there. You have no other means of reaching that ladder, and if you continually miss, you'll run the risk of using up all of Item 1's ammo, which means you'll have to go back down and farm for ammo by killing enemies. Now, to be fair, Wily 1 of the first game had a similar section where the only means of progression was using the magnet beam, and although it was possible to keep messing up and waste your ammo, there were 2 ammo packs on the previous screen that would respawn when you revisited the screen. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, health and ammo packs don't do that anymore, and they never will. Thanks a lot, Capcom. So you finally make it up to the next ladder and are navigating through this platforming section when all of a sudden the screen begins scrolling automatically, and as if that wasn't annoying enough, this gigantic robotic dragon pops up out of nowhere and starts chasing you. Also, I'm fairly certain that the horns on his head qualify as spikes, so if you touch him, you die. And it is at this point in the game where you really start to notice things like screen lag and sprite flickering and something that stays with you for pretty much the rest of the game. Eventually, the screen stops scrolling and a health bar builds up on our friendly dragon here, revealing that he is, in fact, the first boss of the Wily stages. What makes him annoying, apart from the sprite flickering and his one-touch kill horns, is that his fireballs really pack a punch. They don't necessarily do that much damage, but they sure knock Mega Man back really far. If you're standing on the bottom or middle platforms when you get hit, you're gonna fall off. It's unavoidable. If you stand on the top platform, you'll most likely fall down to the middle platform, but whatever you do, get back up on your feet as quickly as you can. The quick boomerangs do slice this guy up pretty good, so it shouldn't be too difficult to beat him. The next 2 Wily stages aren't too difficult. It is pretty interesting that the third boss is a gigantic Gutsman on a dozer, but to be kinda honest, we already knew from playing the first game that Wily has a thing for Gutsman. But nothing, I repeat nothing, is as annoying as freaking Wily stage number 4. Not the Yellow Devil, not the Robot Dragon, nothing. Oh, silly me, I should have known that that platform wasn't real, but where's my brain? In all fairness, the stage has a lot of these holographic platforms over safe ground, so by the time you get to this section, you ought to start suspecting it, and you can even safe test the ground with the bubble lead. The real bullcrap doesn't start until after you clear this moving platform section, make it past these armored mechs, and reach the boss, which is this piece of garbage right here. There are no words. Here's a quick breakdown. 5 block walls that can only be destroyed with the Crash Bomb. 5 turrets that can also only be destroyed with the Crash Bomb. Nothing else works, not even your trusty arm cannon, which has been oh so reliable up to this point. The first thing about this fight that makes it so annoying is the fact that the sprites are constantly flickering, making it really hard to tell where some things are sometimes. Second, a fully filled Crash Bomber only has 7 shots, and since 5 plus 5 does not equal 7, you need to make sure that you only destroy the walls that are completely blocking the turrets. If you can get around a wall by using item 1 or 3, do not destroy that wall. If you waste even a single shot, stand still and let the turrets shoot you enough until you die because you just screwed yourself out of winning the fight. Third, the sprites are constantly flickering. Fourth, the turrets all fire at once, taking several seconds to reload, and it is dang near impossible to dodge the crossfire given that the room you're in is so small and cramped. Fifth, the sprites are constantly flickering. 6. This is where it becomes painfully clear in the game that certain weapons like the Crash Bomb and the special items linger on the screen for quite some time, and until they disappear, you can't pause to switch between weapons. And if you fire a Crash Bomb, you will not be able to fire another one until the first one explodes. Meanwhile, the turrets are reloading, getting ready to fire. Come on, hurry up already, and yeah, that's what I was afraid of. The timing of this boss can be so frustrating. 7th, I don't know if I've already mentioned this yet, but the sprites are constantly flickering. What really hurts most of all is the fact that this Crash Bomb is the only thing that damages the turrets. Even if there were no block walls to get around, I would still consider this to be bad programming. The special weapons you obtain from the Robot Masters are meant to be more efficient options rather than your only means of hope. The arm cannon should always deal some amount of damage, even if only ever so minutely. I understand that this is only the second game in the series, so the development team hadn't found their happy place yet, but still, couldn't they have at least programmed the arm cannon to take out at least one measly little bar of health off of each turret? That would have helped out so much. The footage being shown is the success take, so if you're new to this game, pay close attention to which walls I am destroying and whatnot. Interestingly enough, there is an easier method to winning this fight, but it's more of a chore than anything else. Here's how it works. If you die in this fight, oh, and believe me, you will respawn before the moving platforming section? What the heck, Capcom? Don't you know how to manage your checkpoints? Well, believe it or not, this is a good thing. Remember back when I said that if you destroy a block wall, it will not respawn if you lose a life? Yeah, you can pretty much see where I'm going with this. Basically, all you need to do is destroy the block walls, don't worry about the turrets, take out every single wall, and once that's done and you have no more Crash Bomb, stand still and let the turrets kill you. You'll respawn back to the moving platforming section, so do whatever you need to do to farm ammo and refill your Crash Bomber. Might as well refill your special items while you're at it. And then continue forward into the boss room again where the block walls will be completely gone. And all you have to do is pick out the turrets, one by one. Wily 5 is a wide open room with 8 teleporters, each one leading to a boss fight with one of the Robot Masters. Unlike the first game in which you fought 2 Robot Masters in the middle of the second Wily stage and the remaining 4 on the final Wily stage, this time you fight all 8 Robot Masters in one stage, one at a time, in whichever order you prefer. The nice thing here is that each Robot Master, upon defeat, drops a large health pack for you. Now, a lot of people say that you should fight Metal Man with his own weapon. I don't see that being terribly useful, but okay, let's give it a shot. Once you defeat all 8 Robot Masters for the second time, a 9th teleporter appears, leading us to Dr. Wily himself, who is fairly easy to defeat with the use of the Metal Blade. Upon being defeated, Dr. Wily escapes and apparently retreats into a secret corner of his castle that we did not know existed.
Okay, that's creepy.
This area leads to a room that is supposedly in space, and Dr. Wily himself is an alien. This battle isn't terribly hard, however, like the turret boss, it can only be damaged with one weapon. The bubble lead is the only thing that damages him. In fact, if you have already dealt some damage to him and hit him with anything besides the bubble lead, trusty arm cannon included, his health will be instantly restored to the max. If you run out of bubble lead, you'll have to let yourself die enough times to get a game over so you can restart the stage with maximum ammo. Upon defeating the alien, the lights will suddenly turn on, revealing that the real Dr. Wily was in fact controlling a holographic projector, while an unseen disco ball was projecting stars on the wall. So no, Wily is not an alien. Wily then proceeds to beg for mercy just like last time, and the game suddenly cuts to Mega Man walking home, just like last time. Mega Man, you gotta quit doing that! One of these days you're gonna want to turn him into the authorities, but won't have the chance, and you'll be kicking yourself in the cranial unit for not turning him in now. Graphically, this game looks about the same as its predecessor, the only noticeable differences being that the designs of the health and ammo packs have been changed. The music was composed by Takeshi Tarichi. I think that just about everyone is familiar with Mega Man 2's soundtrack, but just in case you aren't, it's amazing. Woodman's theme and the second Wily theme are the only ones I don't really care about. Everything else is awesome. I do think that the first Wily theme gets more praise than it deserves, especially when compared to themes like Bubble Man or the credits music, but it's still an incredible theme to this day. Even the boss music is awesome. Even the new weapon screen music gets my head bobbing. Mega Man 2's soundtrack is regarded as one of the greatest on the NES, and I think it deserves every bit of it. Seriously, just listen to some of this stuff. Takeshi Tarichi, you are the freaking man! In conclusion, I see this game as the most definitive Mega Man game. It introduced elements such as E-tanks, passwords, and 8 Robot Masters instead of 6 that would remain regular staples throughout the series. But because the Wily stages are badly programmed in my opinion, I don't think that this game is the absolute best. Again, I understand that the developers made everything on their own time, and the fact that they pulled all of this off in 3 to 4 months is still amazing to me. I know it's kind of odd to hear a die-hard Mega Man fan like myself not hailing this game as the absolute best, but that's just how I honestly feel. But all of my complaints aside, 480 still really does like this game.
Well, anyway, thanks for joining me for a look at our second game in the Classic series. It'll be a while before I get to Mega Man 3. I'll probably do a few other games before I start Mega Man 3. So, until then, see ya!